Morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We're going to do some rounding today. I think this is going to be a review for most of you. So let me give you some samples first of what I'm looking for as a reminder review kind of thing, and then we'll do some examples down here, okay? All right, so I've got 36 here, but I've underlined the 3. If you have a piece of paper, you might want to jot this down, follow along with me, because I want to round this 36 to the nearest 10, all right? Count by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130. You can go on forever, right? But I want to know, what's 36 in between? What are the tens on both sides of it? Well, I know 30 is going to be below it, and 40 is going to be above it. 36 is somewhere in between, okay? I'm going to draw a little line here. What's directly in between? What's in between 30 and 40 in the middle? Well, I know there's 10 apart, and half of 10 is 5. So the middle of 30 and 40 is 35, okay? You tell me when to stop, because I want to find 36 now, okay? Probably right about here, right? So just above 36, just above 35 is where 36 is going to be. So in other words, once you get halfway, you might as well keep on going, okay? And I know that 40 is going to be my answer. Now, if I'm not going to draw a picture every time, because I've got a lot of numbers here, one way to think about it is I'm going to round to the nearest 10. I want to find the nearest 10. But that doesn't really tell me anything unless I look at the ones place. And I know halfway in between 30 and 40 is 35. 5 is halfway in between. I'm past halfway. I'm going to bump it up to a 40, okay? So I'm going to say 36 rounds to 40. Let's try this one over here. 141. What did I underline though? I underlined the 1 because we're going to round to the nearest 100. Let me figure out what's in between. Well, I know that 100 is going to be below it. I know 200 is going to be above it. What's in between 100 and 200? Well, they're 100 apart. Half of 100 is 50. So 150 is right in the middle. I know I wrote that pretty small, but you know what it is. It's 150. 141, is it on the right or on the left? Yeah, good. It's going to be on the left. It's going to be just on this side of 150. So if it's over here, if it's not quite halfway, we're going to round it back to 100. I could also look at the 100 and say, okay, well, I know I'm in the hundreds. Do I have enough hundreds to go higher, or should I keep it as 100? So I'm going to look at the 4. It's not quite half. It's pretty close to half, but it's not there yet. So I know that 141 rounds to 100 if I'm going to the nearest 100, okay? So 141 rounds to 100, okay? All right, moving on. 253. Why did I underline the 5? So we're going to round to the nearest tens place, okay? Even though we're in the hundreds, we can still round within the tens. So I'm not going to draw a picture for this one. I'm going to circle my 5. I'm going to point to the 3. Is this enough to round up or round down? Good, we're going to round this one down. If that was a 5 there, yeah, we'd bump it up, but we don't have that. So we're going to round this down. The 5 is going to stay the same. Everything behind it becomes a 0. Is that my answer? Does that look good to you? No, can't forget, we're at 253, so our answer is going to be 250. 789, last sample here. Rounded to the nearest 100. Let's take a look. I'm in the hundreds place, but I really want to look at the tens. What does the 8 tell you? Which one? We're going to round it up. We're past 5. Once you hit 5, you can round it up. We're well past it, so 789, I want to round to the nearest 100, is going to bump up to 800. Everything behind it becomes a 0. So if you look, every time you round, your answer should end in a 0 of some kind. Either a 10 or 100. It should have zeros. You could be rounding numbers into the thousands or 10,000s after the place value we did last week, okay? All right, let's do some of these, and then you're gonna do some practice on your own. 87, round it to the nearest 10. Grab a sheet of paper, make sure you're following along with me. Okay, I'm gonna circle the 8, I'm gonna look over at the 7. I know that 7 is greater than 5. I'm gonna round my 8 up to a 9. This becomes a 0, it's a 90, okay? 235, round it to the nearest 10. I'm gonna circle my 3, but that doesn't tell us that much. I gotta look over at the 5. What's special about that 5? Yeah, it's exactly halfway between 230 and 240. If you're halfway, keep going, round it up. 645, same deal, right? I'm rounding to the 10, but I'm gonna look at the ones place. It's also halfway, so this one also rounds up. 50, right? Did I do something wrong? What's wrong? Oh yeah, 650. 1,782. Rounding to the 1,000, but the thousands place doesn't tell us. I gotta look over at the hundreds. I am more than halfway. I have a 7. I needed a 5, so I am gonna round it up to not 1, but 2,000, okay? I'm working my way across this way. 148, circle the 1, look at the 4. Not quite halfway. I'm gonna have to round it down, back to 100, okay? 37. What'd you get? I got 40, because I'm more than halfway in the ones place. I'm gonna keep rounding up. Wait a minute, 235, we already did this one. But here we did to the nearest 10, now let's do it to the nearest 100. I'm looking at the 2, starting at the 2, gonna look over at the 3. Not quite enough to round up, is there? So we're gonna round down to 200. So the same number, 235, to the nearest 10 is 240, but to the nearest 100 is 200. 593. Whoop, got the wrong place. I'm rounding to the nearest 10, so now I'm gonna look over at the ones. What does the 3 tell you? Yeah, we're gonna round down. So we're gonna keep the 5, it's gonna be 590. So I'm going from 93 back down to 90, 590, okay? Okay, last row. 3,765. I'm gonna circle the thousands, but I really have to look at the hundreds. I gotta see, do I have enough hundreds to round up or round down? I have 7, I have plenty of hundreds. So I'm gonna round up to 4,000. 150, I think this is kind of a special one. What's special about 150? Think about that for a second. If you're rounding it to the nearest 100, good. The 5 means you're exactly halfway between 100 and 200. And if you're halfway, keep going to 200. 216, do this one on your own. Take more time if you need it. I'm going to circle the 1, but the 1 doesn't tell us anything. I have to look over at the 6. 6 says, hey, you're more than halfway. Let's keep going up to 220. And finally, we're at 5,411. I want to round it to the nearest 1,000. What am I close to? Well, it's kind of in between 5,000 and 6,000, but I think it's a little closer to 5,000 because, look, we're only at 5,411. So I'm going to use that 4 to say I'm going to round down back to 5,000. Okay? Hope this was a review, everybody. Try a little practice on Schoology.